Maybe it's because
you're old.
I'm a
Paulie.
Gen Xer.
You're old,
yes.
buddy.
That was the most shocking thing to me, was to learn you're filling in, so I don't see you that often. But to learn that you're a millennial was shocking.
But
to
like
me.
I said, I listen to more. I mean,
I know, but like it made me feel old. I'm 51, man. You're not even 40
Paulie.
yet. You know, there's a football game that hasn't been canceled in the Dome this weekend. And to get more on that, we'll go to John Creek, a radio analyst for Western Michigan football. John, thanks for coming on. And maybe you could just give us a quick overview of what you took away from the St. Francis game.
Yeah, great win for the Broncos. Again, Lance Taylor, his first coaching win as a Western Michigan head coach. Lance came from Louisville, was the offensive coordinator there last couple of years, but spent at Notre Dame, Stanford, Alabama, then in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers, so a lot of experience for Lance, but it was good to get his first win in Kalamazoo. They did a great job running the ball. I think that was what they wanted to establish the line of scrimmage. Jalen Buckley had 190 yards rushing. They rushed for over 300 yards as a team. So that was a big key for them. And then on defense, they did a nice job of stopping the run. And Robin Hook, our play-by-play guy who's been doing it for 40 years for Western Michigan, the voice of the Broncos, always says, stop the run the ball, win the game. So it's pretty simple when you do those type of things. And they came out with a good win against St. Francis. It's a good St. Francis team. I think will be pretty competitive in that FCS division that they play in.
I don't think you ever want to go to Loretto, PA, though, John, just from prior experience. I grew up pretty close to there. Taking a look at Western Michigan, and yes, you guys do have a new head coach in Lance Taylor. I want to go back just a little bit. Everyone knows Tim Lester around here, from Syracuse. Why do you think Tim, kind of couldn't stick there, so to say?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, Tim obviously is a Hall of Fame member at Western Michigan, was a great quarterback, was an assistant coach his first go-around at Western Michigan, and then came back as a head coach, and really had a lot of fun in Kalamazoo. Kind of that was where he was going to hang his hat for his coaching career, and took over for P.J. Fleck. So kind of a, tough situation where you go to the Cotton Bowl in 2016, you're 13-0, and then Tim comes in after that, and, roster was pretty good. Just a different mentality, obviously different way of looking at things than PJ had, which, PJ went on to Minnesota, has done really well there. And Tim just, one of those things where the games at the end of the season, the Northern Illinois, the Toledos, the better teams in the Mid-American Conference just can get over the hump on those games. But the players love playing for him. I mean, that was the one thing I noticed when we would go to practice or when we do post-game things with Tim is, always had a lot of respect from his players that wanted to be there for him. But they decided, so Dan Bartholomew, new athletic director, came in from Oregon State and, decided to make the change after the first year of his reign at Western Michigan and brought in Lance, and, things have been going pretty well in the springtime, and then, good start to the season.
We've seen Lance obviously is the, with Louisville at Notre Dame running backs coach, but from your aspect of things, what does he bring as a head coach now, that the style that we can expect a Western Michigan team to be under Lance Taylor?
I think he's a tough, hard-nosed, old-school guy. I mean, he played for Saban at Alabama and obviously coached there. And I think all the coaches he's been with, Brian Kelly and Saban and the guys he's been around seem to be that type. And when he does the interviews, when I see him at practice and talk to him, he's always, own the grass and, tough, hard-nosed, things that he's always talking to his players about. And I think they want to be that type of team. So the interesting hire he made was a Richmond offensive coordinator. Billy Koch was kind of a spread offense, run, every 15, 20 seconds, try to run a play, which they did some of on Thursday. But I think the big thing that Billy did was he spreads things out, but then, wants a one-on-one matchups with the run game. So I think, just because you run that spread offense doesn't mean you're going to throw the ball over the place. So they, Western ran the ball almost 50 times against St. Francis. So, as far as looking for the type of identity for the team, I think they want to be up pace. They want to be fast, very aggressive on defense. They kept defensive coordinator Lou Esposito, who had been hired by Tim Lester, and which I think was a good thing. It kept a little continuity with the team. And Lou's blitz, we're getting after you, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, that type of thing. We're coming after you every time. So the defense actually played pretty well. Couple drives, end of the second quarter, beginning of the third quarter, gave up 14 points. But other than that, played a pretty solid game.
John, you touched on the run game, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But, this isn't a complete rebuild like Dion did at Colorado, bringing in, over 50 players, 13 new players, brought into the program. Was that continuity there from the start with the team, do you think, we kind of didn't have to retool, so to say?
Yeah, it was interesting. We only returned 2 starters on defense and 4 on offense, but a lot of the guys were those second-team guys, those special team guys that played. We call them the quad guys that play on all 4 special teams units. So you could kind of see, a great example is Boone Bonema, who's a starting middle linebacker, which is a great name, obviously, for a middle linebacker. But Boone had been on every special teams unit since he was a freshman, got some playing time last year. But again, Western had a pretty stacked linebacker crew for the last 3 years. In fact, Zaire Barnes, I believe, is still with the Jets in the NFL now. I think he made a training camp. I think that's where he was at. But, he was an outside linebacker and played, all 4 years at Western. So they had some guys, that were ready to play. Just there were guys ahead of them that were a little bit better. So young defensive line, Corey Walker, Tyson Lee, Mason Nelson, Josh Nobles have been there for 2 years. They get a chance to play. Then offense, Jack Salopek was a starting quarterback to start the season last year. Trayson Bourget took over him, true freshman. And then Trey played 4 games last year. And the last game of the season, against Toledo, Jack got the start. They wanted to save the redshirt year for Trey in that 4-game situation. So Jack actually started the last game of the season, beat Toledo last year. So Jack's one of the quarterback, with Trayson Bourget and Hayden Wolf, a transfer from Old Dominion. Jack's been the QB1 so far this year. I think Trey played a little bit in the fourth quarter last week, and you'll probably see maybe all 3 of them against Syracuse. I think he wants to get them playing time too, to kind of make a final decision as the season goes along.
Well, you had Buckley run for 194 yards on 30 carries. What, as a Syracuse fan, when you're looking at this, what makes him so explosive, so to say?
Yeah, he's an interesting. He played a little bit last year. But his size really impressed. He's 5'11", but he's 210, so he's kind of in between the tackles type of guy. Western Michigan fans remember it had a guy named Jamari Bogan, was one of the good running backs at Western, and played in the Carrier Dome actually against Syracuse a couple years ago. So a little bit like Jamari. I think the big thing that I saw with him is his footwork at the point of attack. He really sees, vision is really good, but he makes that really quick cut at the line of scrimmage, maybe when a defensive lineman or linebacker's filling the hole, and then kind of has pretty good speed for his size to get to the outside. So it was kind of a combination of both. The other running back who's played a little bit, got knocked, had a little bit of an injury, but I think he's going to be okay for this week, is Keyshawn King, who's a fifth-year guy, transferred from Virginia Tech. Looked like a kind of more of the more explosive guys on the team. So I think when the speed, trying to get him to the outside is going to be a key against Syracuse on Saturday.
If you were looking at 2 things that concern you, one on the offensive side and one on the defensive side, and I look at that game, it was 21-17, about a couple minutes into the third last week against St. Francis. What concerns you offensively with this Western Michigan team, and then defensively?
Well, I think that the offensive line was one thing that was a struggle last year. They just couldn't find the guys, good mix between them. Obviously, Jacob Gideon, the centers, preseason All-MAC guy, he's kind of solidifies that offense. But the other guys, Addison West was another returner, but the other 3 positions are kind of jumping around. So they actually brought in Michael Shanahan, and Texas Tech transfer, Ted Cushy, actually a Long Island University transfer, to kind of solidify those tackle spots. So that's kind of a work in progress too with the offensive line. And then Jack Salopek, can Jack get things going? Obviously, he struggled a little bit last year in his first full season with Western Michigan on the field. So, can your quarterback get get the reads, get the ball to the right guys, get it out quick enough. Jack did a nice job Thursday, drove down the field, threw a pick in the first possession, and then, did a good job of holding on to the ball the rest of the game. But I have to say those two on offense. And on defense, line of scrimmage. It's always when the group of five plays a power five, it's the line of scrimmage. Can the defensive line of Western Michigan win some battles against Syracuse's offensive line? That's probably the big thing, and get to the quarterback a little bit, put some pressure on him, and not have him be able to sit back there and kind of throw the ball downfield against the secondary.
John, the last time these two teams met, they've been kind of shootouts. Syracuse has scored over 50 points against Western Michigan, and Western Michigan's been able to move the football. You see another style like that in the Dome come Saturday, or is this one going to be a grinded out on both sides of the football?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I would kind of say more of a high-scoring game, but then you look at, Western Michigan try to establish a run and maybe make the game a little bit longer, take a little more time off the play clock, but that's opposite of what Billy does, our offensive coordinator. He kind of wants to get to the line of scrimmage and go. So I think the big key in any of these type of games when Western Michigan goes up, Syracuse, the Broncos play Iowa next week in Mississippi State in about a month, is turnovers. We just have to play a really good, solid, not turn the ball over. If we have to punt a couple times, flip the field, that's okay. But I give Syracuse a short field, especially on the road, and just take care of the ball on Saturday.
John, thanks for your time, and have a safe trip to the Cuse.
Okay, sounds good. Good being with you guys.
Thanks, John.
There you go. John Creek, radio analyst for Western Michigan football. I didn't tell him to have a good time in the 315. Steve's line, how do we feel about have a safe trip to the Cuse?
Is he a good friend of the show?
Was that Steve ended an interview with have a good time in the 315, and I laugh every time we're ending an interview.
What's Kalamazoo's area code? Do we know?
No. I've been there. We played there.
You played there 2018.
Yeah, I've been to Kalamazoo.
And Tristan Jackson went wild against them in the Dome.
Let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, Filler Palooza and then Matt Park. Jordan and then Matt Park, back-to-back All-Stars. Coming up on ESPN Radio Syracuse, Utica Rome, and QSportsTalk.com.